Welcome, dear friends, to 21 Days with Paul and Stephen. We are here in this 21 days of a beautiful journey on the many inspirational teachings of this book, Paul and Stephen, with the author Emmanuel through the medium Chico Xavier. This book is a great inspiration for the current times. Hi, Leticia. It's great inspiration because the current times on the earth are of great transition, and it's very important for us to meditate upon the teachings that Paul, Stephen, Abigail, and many people in this book are sharing with us, so we have some guidance towards it. The current times, especially after the elections in the United States, have increased fear in many people. Some people are desperate, say they are skeptical, they are lacking hope. Hi, Paloma. So it's very important for us to have safe guidelines for our lives in a daily basis. And these teachings are Christ conscious. So that's why they're unmistakable. It's very important to know that this book was published and written during the Second World War. Can we feel it? Why did Emmanuel, through Chico Xavier, also wrote this book precisely during that time? Well, there are many reasons. One of them is because this book can be a good reference for us, not only for those who believe in Jesus, but anyone who is willing to have a balanced life and a life that is fulfilled by love and good deeds. Hi, Leonor, we can feel the love. Thank you. So yesterday, we were at a very difficult chapter, but beautiful. We can extract lessons from challenging times. It's the death of Stephen. And he got to know that Abigail was engaged with his persecutor, Saul. Saul was distraught in his heart. He was speechless. He was asking himself, what? What does this all mean? Abigail is the sister of Stephen, the so beloved Jezeel. She talked to me all along and I promised to fight for her. Hi, Marisa. Big kiss to the Kardashian family. Now, in this very chapter, there's a beautiful moment we discussed yesterday. When she gets to know that Jezeel, Stephen, her brother, is with Christ, she asks, who is Christ? We are asking ourselves, deep question, who is Christ for us? Who is Christ? Is Christ for you the one at the cross? The one that is preaching, judging? Or is Christ a guide and model? The model for us to achieve our deep connection, conscious connection with God. You see, the difference between us and the computers that we connect through internet consciously. The computer doesn't have consciousness. The difference between the animal stage we were through and the human one is that now we do have consciousness. So when Emmanuel is reporting to us this question about who is Christ, he's also asking us to ask this question: who is Christ? Why have they changed you so, the teachings of Christ? And the answer: Jesus is our Savior. Savior? From what? Explain the dying man in order not to waste the minutes quickly slipping away. In my version here, the paperback, it's page 195, okay? And this is the end of chapter 8, almost entering chapter 9. And now they call me Stephen because a generous Roman freed me, but asked for absolute secrecy. Forgive me. It was out of gratitude that I followed this advice. One cannot be thankful to God if he does not show gratitude to men. Friends, for many of us, we are entering in this world the week of Thanksgiving, and it's all about gratitude. We cannot be grateful to God if we're not thankful to the people in our lives. So let us exercise this week this gratitude everywhere we go. Let us be very mindful of the many people who have been helping us without asking for any reward. Everywhere we go, family, work, and in our communities, let us express our gratitude. If you're picking up your children in their school, send prayers of gratitude to the teachers, to the staff of the school. If you go to a hospital, if you go to visit any place, go and pay your respects and gratitude to the people. Seeing that his sister was still sobbing, he continued, I'm dying. But the soul is immortal. I'm sorry to leave you when I've just seen you again, but I shall help you from wherever I might be. And it's so true. Life doesn't end at all. Listen, Jeziel, what did this Jesus teach you to lead you to such grievous end? Wouldn't whoever abandons a loyal servant like this be a cruel master instead? Isn't that what many people think? They start working for the good in spiritist centers or whatever it is, and they start telling themselves, but I thought my life was going to be so much easier and better. What would Jeziel tell us if we're thinking like this? Hi, Vanessa. Hi, Adilson. Don't think like that. He continued with difficulty. Jesus is just and merciful. He promised to be with us until the end of time. Later, you will understand. He taught me to love my executioners. Hi, Angelita. Love my executioners? That's hard. That's hard, but possible. I remember Divaldo Franco telling a friend of mine who was undergoing difficult times. He said, Divaldo, it's so difficult. My life is so hard. And he said, maybe hard, but not impossible. There is nothing we cannot overcome if we have a conscious trust in God. We need to exercise it. Remember, trusting God is something we increase as we grow, not older, more experienced. It's not about age. It's about experience. There are kids who are so more mature than people who are much older. It's about experience in the long run of immortality. Okay? And we're so happy, dear friends, that we don't count, our spiritual age. I'm so happy to see that in any of these books, we never read something like, oh, and by the way, this minister of the Nosso Lar, the colony, is 10,580 years old. That would be so confusing to us. Like, how old are you in actuality? No, that doesn't matter. What matters is our vibrational gain, our spiritual involvement. We don't count it in numbers. That's why the spirits never focus on numbers, because that really does not do the deal. It's about moral achievements, not numerical. It's not about quantity, it's about quality. When Kardec asked the spirits in the Spirit's book, can we evolve like overnight? And they say, yes, it's a matter of effort. So if somebody tells you, you cannot become perfect in one life, well, according to the laws of God, we can. It depends on us. Proof? Proof? I'm going to give you a reference. Okay? When we read these books, Emmanuel's books, look at Livia in the book 2000 Years Ago by Emmanuel through Chico Xavier. She was already a spirit of higher elevation, but through the efforts she made in that life, she ascended. She ascended. In the second book, 50 years later, Celia is a good heart, but she has fear, she has insecurities, questions and doubts throughout the experiences that she goes through in that life, and her surrender to Jesus, to God. At the end of that life, she ascended. I'm not saying it's purity, but she really overcame and became what we say the real humanity. Look at Stephen in this very book. He's already a sweetheart, a very determined mind. At the end of his life, as we're seeing, he ascended. He's working side by side with Jesus. One life. I'm not saying from criminal to perfection, because we don't know. But the possibilities are in God's hands. We cannot limit somebody else's evolution by the concepts, the limiting concepts in our life, in our minds. It is possible. Look at Saul. He killed. He persecuted. Look what's going to happen in the next chapters. So if somebody tells them, oh, it's not possible for somebody to change like that, according to these teachings, it is, as long as the person strives. And she embraced her brother tenderly, awash in abundant tears. After a pause in which the victim showed that he was in the final moments of physical life, he made the supreme effort to move. With whom shall I leave you? And Abigail explained, pointing to the petrified soul. This is my betrothed. The dying man looked at him without hate. May God bless you both. Your betrothed is not my enemy, but a brother. Saul must be good and generous. He defended Moses to the end. When he meets Jesus, he will serve him with the same zeal. Be a loving and faithful companion for him. What a man. But you see, the preacher's voice was now hoarse and nearly imperceptible. In the throes of death, Stephen contemplated Abigail in brotherly sadness. When the doctor from Tarsus heard these last words, he went pale. That's the ego, my friends, in us. When we are facing love, ego is petrified, is pale, is shocked. What do we do next? When our ego is facing the possibility of reconciliation. You know those cases in which you go by separate ways. Hi, Karen. Hi, Manuel. Thank you. Big kiss and hug to you, my friend, too. You know when lives go by separate ways, and we talk bad about people, and one day life presents an opportunity of reconciliation. Our ego is asking the same questions as in this chapter. He's petrified, and he's asking. He wanted to be hated and cursed. Stephen's compassion, the fruit of peace that his soul had never known in the eminence of worldly status, struck him profoundly. He could not explain it. But the dying man's resignation and gentleness were assailing his hardened heart. It's like the movie Frozen, when we learn from Olaf, the snowman. True love melts a frozen heart. And that's exactly what's happening here. The love in Stephen's heart, in Abigail's heart, are very much cracking the frozen heart of Saul. True love truly melts a frozen heart. The love of Jesus for us is melting our frozen hearts. We still have frozen hearts. First quiz of the day. Yes, we need quizzes for self-observation. Thank you for the love. In a scale 0 to 10, how frozen is your heart? Are you still like too hard to open the heart for everybody without conditions? 0 being truly frozen, and 10 being melt. Our hearts are melted. Where are we in our frozen heart? Too frozen or really melting? 0 to 10. Because Jesus' heart, there is no snowflake. No snowflake there. It's completely defrost. It's completely open, melt for us. His love emanates to us. His light, literally, the sun light, is melting our hearts each and every day. But we can help out by consciously allowing it to do so. So here we have our dear soul. He would not bend to a matter of sentimentality, and that's how many people are nowadays. What? I'm gonna love Muslims? That's the discussion of the times. I'm gonna love the Republicans? No, we're enemies forever. I'm gonna send prayers to the new president-elect? Am I gonna send love and appreciation to people who are supremacists, the white supremacists? Friends, let's give one step back. Somebody who believes that being white is being better is sick. When somebody's sick, they need remedy, medicine. What is the remedy? Love. They can't be afraid of others, but they are. So they create a barrier. They need love more than ever. This book, Stephen is leading us into a new model. Forget the ego, because that we know. But let's learn and create neuronal pathways for the new Stephen's Christ conscious attitude. He's showing to us, love your enemy. Send them prayers. Do not resist them. It's a message for us. Because the ego is puzzled. He's conflicted. Conflict, inner conflict is beautiful because it's pushing us to decisions. Deep inside, he loved Abigail through the ties of the soul, and had discovered in her delicate feminine heart everything he had dreamed of in matters of temporal nature. She synthesized his hopes as a man. She was the surety of his destiny. She represented God's reply to his appeal of his idealistic youth. Now, a gasping chasm has opened between them. The sister of Stephen? Nobody had ever dared to affront his authority except that zealous preacher of the way. Do you, when you read the chapter, think that Stephen had that intention of power struggling with Saul? No, right? But his ego felt that way. That's a second observation of the day for us. Interpretation. It's on us. We take offense. It's not given. We take it. Oh, but this person hurt me. Well, you interpret it that way. It's like a child saying, no, I don't like you because you did this. You're gonna take offense? He took offense. It's his decision. Saul decided that Stephen was hurting him, his ego. Intention? No intention on Stephen. He didn't do it. So how often we are taking offenses and, accumulating in our homes, the home of the heart. So open the door of our hearts and let us do some decluttering in regards to offenses. Trash it out, doesn't serve. Trash it out, it doesn't serve us any purpose. Oh, that person said that to me. No, they said it to themselves in front of you. No, but I know they meant it. No. If you plug into that, you're taking offense. We can't take offense. So let's do the exercise. Trash it out. Trash it out. Trash it out. It's perspective. The way people are seeing it. The way we're seeing it. Saul was deeply conflicted. If he marries Abigail, they would never be happy, he thought. Mamma mia. He is concluding things before even beginning them. He would be the executioner and he would be the victim. So Abigail is sad and she's desperate. She doesn't want him to go away, but he dies, and lovingly, he turns to her, whispering, Abigail, I go in peace. I wish to hear you say the prayer of the afflicted and dying. And she, remembering again the father's torment, everything, she started saying, Lord God, Father of those who weep, of the sad and oppressed, fortress of the defeated, comfort in all pain, despite the bitter misery of the weeping over our errors, from this world of exile we clamor for your love. In the afflictions of the way, in the night most tormenting, your generous fount is the good that shall never dry up. You are in everything the light eternal of joy and peace, our door of hope which shall never close. When everything despises us in the world of iniquity, when the tempest comes upon the flowers of illusion, O Father, you're the light divine, the hymn of certainty, overcoming all harshness, overcoming all afflictions. On the day of our death, in abandonment or in torment, help us to forget the darkness, the pain, the evil, that in our final moments we may feel the light of life, renewed and forgiven in happy and immortal peace. Hi, Marilda. Peace to you too. When Abigail finished her prayer, her face was bathed with tears. Under the soft caress of her hands, Jezeel became still. A snow-like pallor appeared on his corpse-like face, as well as a profound serenity. Saul understood that he was dead. While the young girl from Corinth raised herself carefully, as if her brother's body needed all the tenderness of her kind spirit, Saul approached her with a frowning look and said sternly, Abigail, everything has ended and is finished between us as well. Can you believe it? Our ego can be so cold that we don't see anybody else's pain. It's blinding. The poor creature turned in fear. Were the blows she had just received not enough? Could it be possible that her beloved would not have a word of kind conciliation at this difficult hour of her life? Dismayed by everything she found in Jerusalem, she understood the need to gather all her strength so as not to fail the harsh trials that have been reserved for us. Everything is finished between us? Why? Suffering should not put true love to fight. Don't you understand? Retorted the proud man. Our union has become impracticable. Well, they keep talking. She's very generous, very loving, but his pride and his selfishness are escalated to the max. And that's how it is. Human nature. When our ego takes place, we cannot see the suffering of anybody. How many people in our lives are suffering and we cannot see it? We dismiss them. We think our suffering is the only one. We cannot see the suffering of other people around us. That's hard. She goes away. He asks for her to forget about him. But because she has this deep faith, she works on herself and goes her way to Joppa. And she doesn't say a word. It is when she leaves that Gamaliel comes in, the mentor. You see, again and again in the chambers of the high priest, which symbolizes our conscience, we have love through Abigail coming in and inviting us to melt the frozen heart of the ego. And we have the highest principles that come in the form of Gamaliel. Let us observe the psychological take on it. When love is not enough, the deep principles in the form of Gamaliel come and give us another opportunity to wake up from the trance of the ego. It's the trance of the ego that is blinding us. We cannot see but just our temporary needs. Thanksgiving is approaching, Christmas is approaching, a new year is approaching. And we are asking ourselves, we're going to meet friends and family. And we are often stuck with what happened in the past. Let us bring love, the bridge, Abigail, and Gamaliel, the representation of the principles of God inside of us, and ask, is it about us or the love that unites us? I'm not going to invite this person. You know why? Because this person is like this. They did that to me in the past. Friends, it's about reconciliation. Jesus said, The sooner we walk with the person now and reconcile now, the better for us. Tomorrow may be too late. Harder to be together and work together. There is a case by Humberto de Campos in a book named Estante da Vida, Shelf of Life. One day it's going to be in English. He talks about the true case of a woman. She was 32 years of age. She had a son. She got to know her husband was in love with another woman. She was so upset, she killed herself. She took poison, killed herself. She tells Humberto de Campos about the dramas she experienced in the afterlife as a suicidal spirit. And later, she tells all of us through the reporter of the beyond, Humberto de Campos, that she just wasted time in her life because now she learned to love the woman she hated, because now she got married to the man. It was fruitless, she said. You know, I killed myself for nothing because she married her anyway. And she's taking care of my son. Now she's a dear sister to me, but it was hard for me to face it. So love is calling us now. Why are we going to postpone it? Why are we going to postpone the needed friendship and reconciliation we need to do with everyone? Everyone. So he's postponing it, but God is kindly giving Saul another opportunity. So Gamaliel comes and says, I came here. I hope to leave for Damascus next week. I'm going to retire. And I have one last request to make. It's the request of our conscience. Gamaliel represents our conscience, the highest principles of God that are inscribed in our conscience. And a final request, and that's what happens when our ego is escalating in its trance. God sends one last request. Okay? I regard Simon Peter as a friend. This confession might be astonishing to you, but I feel good in making it. He has just come to visit me and he asked my intervention for the victim's body to be taken to the Church of the Way, where it will be buried with much love. I am the intermediary for the request. I hope you'll not refuse me this favor. So, in here, we learn one beautiful thing. That the request of our divine conscience is asking us to bury the old with love. Friends, it's always the last request. But how does the ego take it? Did you say victim? That's how the ego feels. I am not the wrong one. He is, she is. That's how we behave, just like Saul. No, I'm not the one. He says, the existence of a victim implies an executioner, and I am no one's executioner. I defended the law to the end. We constantly think when we are in this trance of the ego that we're always right and everybody's wrong. So when the last request of our conscience comes and says, mercy, compassion, we're like, why mercy? I'm no executioner. I don't have to feel mercy. He dismisses it. He does. He says, do not see the mark of recrimination my words, neither the time or place in fitting for an argument. So he tells about his belief in the new teachings. Saul of Tarsus is shocked, but He grants it just for respect to his mentor, Gamaliel. Abigail returns to Joppa, and the body of Jeziel is going to be buried in the house of the way, and Saul is in the deep trance of the eagle. He is frozen. He's completely frozen. As Rita DiCassi is saying, we have to change our feelings to love our brothers and sisters. And you're right, Livia. Thank you. Thank you for being with us. So we enter chapter 9. Very significant because chapter 9 is about this journey to love. Abigail, the Christian. What happens next? After Stephen's martyrdom, the persecution against all disciples of sympathizers of the way grew much worse. As if overcome by delusion, upon replacing Gamaliel in the most important religious functions in the city, Saul of Tarsus gave himself to suggestions of cruel fanaticism. Friends, when we are in the trance of the ego, we give room to radical behaviors. Radical behaviors are not the ones in which we're committed to doing good, are the ones in which we're blind and we start creating division, separation, and instead of unity. Hi, Marcia. Hi, Joyce. Ruthless inquiries were ordered regarding any family that displayed any attraction or sympathy for the ideas of the Nazarene Messiah. The lowly church, where Peter in his goodness continued helping the most unfortunate, was strictly monitored by soldiers who had been ordered to put a stop to the sermons that had been gentle consolation for unfortunate beings. Obsessed by the idea of safeguarding the Pharisaic heritage, Saul devoted himself to the greatest outrages of tyranny. Morally upright men were banished from the city on mere suspicion. Honest workers and mothers even were interrogated in scandalous public proceedings, which the persecutor himself insisted on leading. Saul seemed to be possessed by criminal indifference. You see? Saul seemed to be possessed by criminal indifference. We, the Spiritists, need to ask ourselves, are we in this trance of the ego? We need to ask this question. The trance of ego is blinding. We cannot see anybody suffering. Okay, so let's measure it. Trance of the ego. Are we in the trance of the ego? Depends on the level. At some point we may be, because we are still to evolve. But how critical is the level? You know, there are dangerous levels in the trance of the ego. That's why we need these books, to bring us back to reality, get us out of this trance of the ego. When we read these books, no wonder Emmanuel coordinated thousands of spirits to bring these messages through the 400 plus books through Chico Xavier, because these are opportunities for us to get ourselves out of the trance of the ego, when we think that our needs, the temporary needs, are more important than the immortal ones. That's what defines the trance of the ego. When we're killing people in our lives, we are not giving quality time of our presence because we're focused on the temporary roles in life. Today you may have a job that is demanding, but we can't forget what is most important, the quality time with the people in our lives. Not necessarily, not solely the nuclear family, but the universal family too. What are the needs of people around us? You don't need to say anything sometimes, but pray for them. Pray that they find the serenity in their lives. Prayer of serenity for everyone. Go to your Facebook and pick friends to pray for. Say, I'm going to pray to this friend. You don't have to send them a message say, I'm praying for you. So you pray for me too. It's okay. We can exchange prayers. That's not a problem at all. It's the gift to one another. Thank you for the love. But pray. Silence. God loves us and he doesn't say, see, I'm loving you. Remember, I'm here. I'm loving you. You have to obey me. The more we grow, the less we demand. As Jesus said once, truth does not demand. Truth transforms us. Truth does not demand. I'm loving you. No, we don't, right? We don't. We don't. So, he was deeply in distress and he was persecuted. So 8 months of unending struggle had passed since Stephen's death. When Saul, surrendering before the love and longing dominating his soul, decided to see once more the flowery landscape along the road to Joppa, he was certain he could win back Abigail's love to such an extent as to reorganize all his plans for a happy future. Isn't this beautiful? And this is not about romantic love. It's about true love. It's not only the love between Saul and Abigail. It's God's love that is animating his heart. 8 months of criminal acts, of craziness. He was in this criminal trance of the ego, persecuting, killing, arresting. How often we go through, and my friends, pause here. Do you know a friend currently who is in this trance of the ego and is going crazy? We spiritists tend simply to label, boom, the jail of obsession, and we put this friend in the jail of obsession. This person is obsessed. I preferred when he used to talk about Jesus. Really? So what are you doing to help this person to get out of the prison of obsession? Labeling him or her? Is that really mercy on our part? Do we think we are less obsessed just because we can see things on others' behavior? We are no different than Saul. Sentencing people and telling them that they are obsessed. Boom! That person's obsessed. That person's obsessed. That person's obsessed. What are we doing to help them? Are we praying? Are we talking to them with kindness? Let's remember, Abigail is the expression of love, God's love. Only love melts a frozen heart. What if we become the instrument of this love in that person's life? Do you know somebody in the Spiritist movement who is in the trance of the ego? Fanatic, obsessed. What are we doing to help them? Sentencing them to the jail of obsession. Telling them that they are obsessed, diagnosing them is not going to do any help. It's going to create more problems, more discrimination. And tomorrow, it can be us. How would we like that people treat us when we are in the trance of the ego? Would we like to be embraced, loved, understood? Or would we like to be discriminated against, put aside, be isolated, as if we are sick and we need to be in quarantine? What are we doing? So, with a heavy heart, he mounted the small chariot. Love it! How hesitant he had been to humble himself. What a man! What a man! He's overcoming his own ego because of love. Only love can get us out of the trance of the ego. That's why the law of society is the key. We cannot isolate ourselves from each other because we can only grow stronger when we love. So he humbled himself to overcome his vanity as a conventional and inflexible man and returned to the former state of affairs. The twilight filled nature with reflections of glistening gold. The deep blue sky, the greenery of the countryside. Are you feeling the joy? Me too. It's when the ego encounters love. But this is not the romantic love, I know. It's mixed feelings, right? When our ego is in this trance, only love, only nature, the divine nature can get us out, snap us out of this trance. Feeling the soft breezes of the afternoon, he felt revived. His hopes and dreams continued untouched. We're divine in essence. We're divine. Nobody in this world is evil. He was trying to figure out the best way to win back. I love this heart. We all love it. Even little Alfred said John DeRosa loved seeing these hearts that you guys put out. He's a 2-year-old, adorable, the grandchild of John DeRosa, who, by the way, did a beautiful recording. The audiobook of the Spirit's book is available at KardecRadio.com. Go check it out. John DeRosa and Steve Shepard. Adilson is reminding us, only love heals a frozen heart. Let's unfreeze our hearts, loving and forgiving one another. Thank you, Adilson, for that statement. He was trying to figure out the best way to win back the devotion. He would tell her of his despair, his sleepless nights. Oh, his continuation of his immense love for her, which no circumstance had been able to destroy. We keep love sacred inside of us because we are the children of love. When we say we're a child of God, we're children of love. Love is our essence. But we can only allow it to burn if we crack it, like the shackles that are imprisoning it. Ego. Though he would remain firm in his purpose of avoiding any allusion to the carpenter of Nazareth, he would tell Abigail that he regretted not having helped her out at the moment when all the hopes of her female soul had been shaken before the unforeseen and heart-rending death of her brother under such bitter circumstances. Immersed in such thoughts, he reached the entrance door while noticing the rose bushes in bloom. See, Emmanuel is describing the nature also to give us a psychological take on it. The rose bushes blooming, meaning springtime in the heart of soul. He is overcoming his winter of the ego. And one day, the dawn of new life is blooming around and within his heart as he's giving room to love. He's giving himself opportunity to love. See cruelty, is not 100% in anybody's heart. Everyone has love within. We are, the essence of us is love. When he got in, his heart was racing, but Zachariah was surprised. And Saul's first question was about Abigail, but Zachariah became sad. She fell ill with lung problems over 4 months ago, and to be frank, we have no hope. Saul turned pale, and he started explaining to her that she became ill, and the ego, still the ego. Has Abigail complained about me at all? The ego is still there. He's opening, but not fully yet. Not in the least. Moreover, her unexpected return from Jerusalem, her sudden illness, and your unwarranted absence were enough to cause us doubt and fear. But she seemed to improve soon. She defended you when we asked about you. And despite her efforts, one day a poor man named Ananias was in the area for about a week, and something strange occurred. Abigail began meeting him and talking to him and gained spiritual strength. Mamma mia! She got to know of the teachings of Jesus. And then Saul was like, what? He was obviously upset. The carpenter? How many of us? And this is the last quiz of the day. Measure people by their temporary appearance. Even though we're Christians, we're spiritists, we do the same. We in America believe that those who truly follow the teachings are wealthy and healthy and devoid of any problems and struggles. That's not Jesus' message. He said that when we are in tune with Jesus, with God, on the earth, we're going to face a lot of issues. Health, family, professional, financial. Many of us still dream of that perfect Messiah. It's going to be beautiful, healthy, rich, very wealthy, prestigious, and we're still not recognizing the Christ within people around us. Look at Chico Xavier. There was a man who really appreciated, he said, I'm a spiritist, and he used to work at a bookstore in the capital of the state of Minas Gerais, Brazil. And he said, I'm looking forward to meeting Chico Xavier. I read all those books. And one day Chico Xavier stopped by the bookstore. And he came along and people said, there's Chico Xavier, there's Chico Xavier. He's like, who? That man? No. I'm going to approach him. And he said, are you Chico Xavier? Yes, I am. Chico Xavier, very humble. He had his eye problems. He was not like, ooh, handsome. He was not like physically, he didn't cause any impression. The man looked at Chico and said, okay, you wish you were Chico Xavier. He turned his back and left. He couldn't believe Chico Xavier, in his appearance, didn't look vibrant and physically gorgeous and handsome and tall and healthy like a superhero. He couldn't recognize the Christ within him. How many of us are like this? Oh, that person, If they are truly following the teachings, they should be healthier, they should be wealthier, they should have less problems at home, less problems at work, less problems in society. Well, we need to read these books again and again and again, because Jesus taught us the opposite. And Livia is reminding us the teaching from Antoine de Saint-Exupéry, The Little Prince, right? The book, The Essential is Invisible to the Eyes. Thank you, Livia. Exactly. It's invisible to the eyes of the ego, we would complement. To the eyes of the ego, because to the eyes of the spirit, we recognize it. So, he is shocked. And he was feeling anguished, pain-filled emotions. How to define himself? His spirit was crushed by bitter questions. But Zachariah, he was irritated. Why didn't you prevent such contact? These old sorcerers traveled this road spreading confusion. I'm shocked by your tolerance. Zachariah received the recrimination calmly and pointed out, before anything else, you must remember that I asked in vain for your presence to guide me. And besides, who would have the courage to withhold medicine for a dear patient? Ever since I saw her holy resignation, I have made sure not to mention her new points of view in matters of religious belief. Come with me and see it with your own eyes. The young man of Tarsus wavered as he followed him. His mind was in turmoil. This unexpected news was poison to his heart. His ego is crushed again. It's cracking up his heart. Love is opening, but ego is still blinding him. He sees her lying in bed, assisted by Ruth. She was very thin. Her complexion had taken on an ivory color, but her clear eyes displayed complete spiritual peace. A sweet serenity showed on her sorrowful face. From time to time, her breathing became very difficult in prolonged agony. Abigail was facing the open window, as she could find relief for her weariness. Saul could not hide his shock when he saw her. On her part, the young woman welcomed the joyful surprise, overcome with sincere and overflowing happiness. They exchanged affectionate greetings, as their eyes revealed the anguished longing. So exclaimed Abigail, I have abandoned my pride. He shows to us his ego. He doesn't shy away from his ego. I have abandoned my pride and vanity as a public figure to come here to ask you whether you have forgiven me, whether you have forgotten me. She replied with moist eyes, Forgotten you? No matter how dry and long the season of the burning sun may be, the leaf in the desert will never forget the beneficent rain that gave it life. This is love, my friends. Love is love. When we love, we love. It never dries out. And don't talk to me about forgiveness either. Can one perchance forgive oneself? We belong to each other forever. Didn't you say many times that I was the heart of your mind? Listening to the tender timbre of that loving voice, Saul was moved to the core of his own enraptured and ardent being. That humility, a very important virtue we forget nowadays. And that tone of tenderness pierced his heart, enabling him to regain his discernment for the right path to take. Why do you say you were the heart if you're still and will be forever? with indefinable joy. In tears, she says, "So I do not believe that the homes of the earth were made for us. God knows how much I wish to be the loving mother of your children. How I held on to that ideal above everything else. How I aim to embellish your life with my loving care. Ever since I was a little girl in Corinth, I have seen women who have wasted their heavenly treasure, symbolized by the love of their husband and children. And I thought the Lord would grant us the same." In praise of him, I imagined the life of the beloved man who would help me set up the altar of motherhood. But heaven has taken from me the potential for such earthly happiness. She goes on and on telling him that she understood. And then she talks about Jesus. "I grieved my misfortune, but it was when a respectable old man," you see, the wisdom comes towards her, "appeared around. His name was Ananias, and introduced me to the sacred life of this new revelation. I learned the story of the Christ, the Son of the living God. I devoured his gospel of redemption, and strengthened myself in his examples." How does the ego feel now? He's very emotional. He says, "Abigail, let go of these sad thoughts. We will be happy, very happy." Friends, how is ego preventing us from being immortally happy? We're going to stop here. In these final parts of chapter 9, which we're going to wrap up tomorrow, entering chapter 10. Today, let us look at ourselves and do a checkup. How is our ego preventing us from facing the immortal happiness right now? How often are our children, spouses, or friends, and I say spouses meaning all the spouses people have around the world, partners, friends, they're crying before us saying, "Please turn off your cell phone." Not now, because we're almost wrapping up, okay? Turn off your cell phone and look at me. Be with me mindfully. Be present. Forget about everything else. As our dear Paloma said in our study session at the Spiritist Center yesterday, she's doing this exercise in her family. She has 2 beautiful children, turning off the cell phone when she gets home so she has quality time with the family. Is your business more important than that? Can't you turn it off for 1 straight hour and be fully present with your family, with your friends? You go to a restaurant, turn it off. Turn it off. You go visit them, turn it off. Go to the Spiritist Center, turn it off. Let's turn it off, friends. And let us be mindful. The ego doesn't allow us to be mindful, but we're being called to being fully present. Our guiding model, Jesus, was and is fully present in our lives. Let us be present in the lives of everyone around, and will be the medicine for the aching hearts of people around. Can we feel it? Fully present here? I can feel you fully present here, and I feel great. Thank you. Thank you for these moments of joy, these moments of nourishment. And let us ask God that we be together tomorrow in these 21 days with Paul and Stephen. A big hug of mindfulness. Big kiss of gratitude. Until tomorrow.